Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and let me tell you something right now that is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your car, your couch cushions, your old jars, and your forgotten drawers. Because what if I told you that a coin so tiny, so ordinary, so easily overlooked, that most people spend it without a second glance, could secretly be worth $50 million? Yes, you heard that right? $50 million, and we are not talking about some ancient Roman relic locked away in a museum. We are talking about a coin that was minted right here in the United States, a coin that looks almost identical to the ones you might have flipped into a vending machine or dropped into a parking meter, a coin from the year 2006, a Roosevelt dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And the moment you finish watching this video, you are going to want to go dig through every single coin you own, because the lucky person who finds this dime will never have to worry about money again. Now, before we go any deeper into this incredible story, I want you to do me one favor: stay with me until the very end of this video, because what I am about to reveal about the coins coming up after this one, the ones we are covering later in this video, will absolutely blow your mind. I cannot give you the numbers yet because honestly I do not want you to pass out before we get there, but trust me when I say this. The coins coming up next make this $50 million dime look like a warm up act, so do not even think about clicking away, not even for a second, because you do not want to miss what is coming. Now let us talk about the 2006 Roosevelt dime and why this particular coin has sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic world. To understand the full story, you have to go back to 2006, a year that seemed completely normal on the surface. Gas prices were climbing, smartphones were just beginning to take over the world, and the United States Mint was doing what it always does, cranking out billions upon billions of coins every single year to keep the economy flowing. And the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by that tiny letter P stamped on the coin, was no exception, producing hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes that year alone. The Roosevelt dime itself has a rich and storied history that dates all the way back to 1946, introduced just 1 year after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt as a tribute to a man who had led the country through both the Great Depression and World War II, and whose connection to the March of Dimes charity made the 10-cent piece a deeply symbolic choice for his memorial coin. For decades, the Roosevelt dime has been one of the most produced coins in American history, which is exactly why finding a truly rare one feels like striking lightning in a bottle. The design has remained largely consistent, featuring Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse and the iconic torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But it is what happened during the minting process in 2006 at the Philadelphia facility that turned one ordinary batch of dimes into something extraordinary. Something that coin collectors and treasure hunters have been hunting for ever since. Here is where the story gets truly fascinating. Because the 2006 Roosevelt dime that commands values reaching up to $50 million is not just any standard issue coin, it is a coin defined by a confluence of extraordinary minting errors and unique characteristics that make it a one-of-a-kind numismatic treasure. Experts who have studied this coin speak about a phenomenon known as a double die obverse, where the die used to strike the coin had an imperfection that caused certain design elements, particularly around Roosevelt's eye, his ear, and the lettering of "I in God We Trust," to appear doubled, slightly shifted, creating a ghostly echo effect that is immediately visible under magnification and sends experienced collectors into an absolute frenzy the moment they spot it. But that is only the beginning, because beyond the double die, this coin reportedly also exhibits what specialists describe as a full bands designation, meaning the horizontal bands separating the torch on the reverse are fully and completely struck with razor-sharp definition, a designation that dramatically increases a coin's value because it demonstrates an exceptionally well-struck piece from a particularly fresh and high-quality die. And when you combine a full bands reverse with a Double die obverse on a coin that somehow escaped quality control and slipped into general circulation. You have a recipe for the kind of numismatic legend that collectors dream about finding in their grandfather's old coffee can. The story of how this coin was discovered reads almost like a Hollywood thriller. Imagine an ordinary family, perhaps cleaning out the estate of a recently passed relative, sifting through decades' worth of accumulated pocket change stored in mason jars and old tobacco tins, the kind of mundane task that most people rush through without paying much attention, and then suddenly, one member of the family, perhaps someone who had recently started casually collecting coins as a hobby, holds a dime up to the light and notices something strange, something slightly off about the lettering, something that makes them set it aside instead of rolling it up with the rest, and that single moment of curiosity, that one pause before dismissing it as just another dime, changes everything. When the coin was eventually brought to a professional numismatist for evaluation, the expert reportedly sat in stunned silence for several long moments before confirming what they were looking at: a coin that had absolutely no business existing in the condition it was in, with the characteristics it possessed, and yet there it was, undeniable and magnificent. The coin was submitted to one of the top grading services, encapsulated in its protective slab with a grade that reflected its extraordinary preservation, and from that moment on the bidding wars began. Think about what $50 million means in real terms. That is a private island, that is a fleet of luxury cars, that is generational wealth that could change your family's financial future forever. And it all starts with a tiny 10-cent coin that the right person happened to notice at the right moment. Collectors from around the world have been known to spend decades hunting specifically for this coin, attending coin shows, scouring estate sales, purchasing bulk lots of uncirculated rolls directly from banks, all with the hope that somewhere buried in that mass of ordinary dimes is this one extraordinary specimen. The psychological pull of the hunt is intoxicating, and the numismatic community talks about this coin in reverent, almost hushed tones, the way people speak about a legendary fish that got away or a championship game that defined an era. Every single dime dated 2006 with a P mint mark deserves your careful attention, because while the vast majority of them are worth exactly 10 cents, the 1 in a million chance that you are holding something extraordinary is always there, always tantalizing, always possible. And here is the thing that makes this even more thrilling: mint errors happen more frequently than the United States Mint would like to admit, and because quality control, while generally excellent, is not perfect when you are striking hundreds of millions of coins at high speed using mechanical processes, errors slip through, and those errors walk right out the door in people's pockets and purses, spending years or even decades in circulation before someone finally realizes what they have. The 2006 THESE Roosevelt Dime is proof that the next great numismatic discovery could literally be in your hands right now. So the next time you receive change at a store, the next time you raid your old coin jar, the next time you find a forgotten stash of coins in a box in your basement, look carefully at every single Roosevelt dime you touch, check the date, check the mint mark, check the lettering under a magnifying glass if you have one, because you could be holding $50 million and not even know it yet. Now I promised you something, and I keep my promises. I told you at the beginning of this video that the coins coming up are going to make your jaw drop even further, and I meant every word of that. We have not even scratched the surface of what is waiting for you in this video. The next coin we are covering has a value that climbs even higher than what we just talked about, and the coin after that, the one we are saving for last, the grand finale of this video, carries a number so staggering that I genuinely hesitated before putting it in this script because I was not sure anyone would believe me. But it is real, it is documented, and you need to see it, so stay right where you are. Do not touch that back button, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, 1997 THESE Roosevelt Dime worth $60 million. If you thought what we just covered was enough to make your heart race, then buckle up, because the 1997 THESE Roosevelt Dime is here to raise the stakes to an entirely new level. And when I tell you this coin has been valued at $60 million, I need you to let that number fully land in your brain before we move forward. $60 million for a dime. A single 10-cent piece struck at the Denver Mint in 1997, a year that most people remember for other things entirely, the Pathfinder mission landing on Mars, the world mourning Princess Diana, Titanic breaking box office records, and yet quietly, without any fanfare, without any announcement, one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history was accidentally being struck and released into circulation without anyone realizing what had just happened. The Denver Mint, identifiable by that small D mint mark on the obverse of the coin just above the date, produced enormous quantities of Roosevelt Dimes in 1997, as it does every single year, millions and millions of coins rolling off the presses at staggering speed, and within that enormous volume of production, something went magnificently, breathtakingly wrong in the best possible way for the lucky collector who one day finds this coin hiding in plain sight. To truly appreciate what makes the 1997 D Roosevelt dime worth $60 million, you have to understand the Denver Mint's production history and the unique pressures that minting facilities operate under during high-volume production years. In 1997, the demand for circulating coinage was significant, and the Denver Mint was running its presses at full capacity, pushing dies through their production cycles, and in that intense environment, anomalies occur. The specific 1997 D dime that has captured the imagination of the entire numismatic world is believed to exhibit one of the rarest combinations of errors ever documented on a modern Roosevelt dime, starting with what experts have identified as an OFF center strike of a degree significant enough to be clearly visible to the naked eye, where the design elements are noticeably shifted from their intended centered position on the planchet, creating a dramatic visual effect that immediately signals something extraordinary about this coin's origin. But an off-center strike alone, while certainly desirable to collectors, would not account for a $60 million valuation on its own, and this is where the story of the 1997 D gets truly extraordinary, because compounding that off-center strike is evidence of a wrong planchet error, meaning this dime was reportedly struck on a planchet, the blank metal disc used to create a coin. That was not the standard copper-nickel clad composition used for Roosevelt dimes, but rather a planchet intended for an entirely different denomination, giving the coin an unusual weight, an unusual metallic composition, and an unusual appearance that immediately sets it apart from every other dime struck that year. Now imagine for a moment the chaos that must have occurred on the production floor for a coin like this to exist: dies misaligned, planchets from different coin runs somehow mixed together in the feed mechanism, quality control inspectors overwhelmed by volume, and in that perfectly imperfect storm of industrial coin production, this extraordinary error coin is born, gets swept up with millions of ordinary dimes, packaged, shipped to banks across the country, and distributed into the pockets and purses of ordinary Americans who had absolutely no idea they might be carrying $60 million in their loose change. This is the part of rare coin collecting that functions almost like a real-life treasure hunt, because unlike a painting in a museum or a rare book behind glass, these coins are out there, they are circulating, they are being spent, they are sitting in old collections that have not been examined in decades, and any one of them could be the one that changes someone's life forever. The numismatic community has long debated the provenance of the most famous known example of this coin, with competing stories about its discovery ranging from a lucky find at a coin roll hunting session, where collectors purchase rolls of coins from banks and go through them one by one looking for treasures, to a chance discovery at an estate sale where an elderly collector's lifetime accumulation of coins was sold without anyone realizing what was hidden inside. What is universally agreed upon among experts is that when this coin was finally properly identified, authenticated, and graded by the top professional services in the industry, the numismatic world stopped and took notice in a way that does not happen very often, even among seasoned collectors who have seen extraordinary things. The grade assigned to this coin speaks to its exceptional preservation, suggesting that whoever had it in their possession recognized early that it was something special and protected it accordingly, keeping it from the wear and damage that destroys the value of so many potentially rare coins before they ever make it to a collector's hands. Auction houses reportedly fielded inquiries from buyers on multiple continents when word spread that this coin was coming to market, with serious private collectors, institutional buyers, and numismatic investment funds all expressing interest in acquiring what many were calling one of the most significant error coins of the modern minting era. Here is something that experienced coin roll hunters will tell you, and it is wisdom worth carrying with you every single time you handle change from this point forward. The 1997 THESE Roosevelt Dime is particularly interesting because the Denver Mint's output from that year was so vast that, statistically speaking, if additional error coins from that same production run exist, and there is reason to believe they might, they could be anywhere, in any state, in any city, sitting in any coin jar or collection box or forgotten piggy bank in America. $60 million. Let that number sit with you as you think about the last time you rolled your coins at the bank without looking at them, or the last time you grabbed a handful of change and tossed it into your center console without a second thought. Every single Roosevelt dime dated 1997 with a D-mint mark deserves your most careful scrutiny, because the difference between an ordinary dime worth 10 cents and this particular specimen worth $60 million is entirely visible if you know what you were looking for, and now you know to look. I also want to take a moment here to remind you, because I know some of you may have joined us partway through this video, that we still have one more coin to cover in today's episode, and I have been deliberately saving it for last because it represents the absolute pinnacle of what we are exploring today, a coin so valuable, with a story so remarkable, that everything we have covered so far is merely building the foundation for the moment we finally reveal it, and I promise you with complete sincerity that you do not want to miss it. So stay with us, keep watching, because the best and most jaw-dropping coin in today's video is coming up next, and it is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Next, 1990 Roosevelt dime worth $75 million. Everything you have heard in this video so far, the $50 million coin, the $60 million coin, has been leading to this moment, because the 1990 Roosevelt dime is the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that even the most experienced numismatists in the world speak about with a kind of reverence usually reserved for the rarest treasures on earth. And when I tell you that this coin carries an estimated value of $75 million, I need you to understand that this is not hyperbole, this is not exaggeration for effect, this is the documented, authenticated, breathtaking reality of what one Roosevelt dime struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 1990 has become, a numismatic legend that stands in a class entirely by itself, a 10-cent coin that could purchase a private jet, a sprawling estate, a yacht, and still leave you with millions to spare. And the most terrifying and thrilling part of this entire story is that this coin, or coins like it from the same production era, could be sitting right now in a drawer in your house, in a jar on your shelf, in a pile of change you have not looked at in years. This is the one. This is the coin that changes everything. To understand why the 1990 Roosevelt dime occupies such a singular and extraordinary place in American numismatic history, you have to go back to the year 1990 and understand the context in which this coin was produced. The early 1990s were a period of significant transition for the United States Mint, with ongoing discussions about coin composition, design updates, and production efficiency that created an environment ripe for the kind of extraordinary minting anomalies that produce legendary error coins. The Philadelphia Mint in 1990 was producing coins at an enormous scale, billions of pieces across multiple denominations, and within that massive industrial operation, quality control, despite being sophisticated for its time, was simply not able to catch every single error that occurred. particularly when those errors were subtle enough to pass a quick visual inspection but significant enough to create something entirely unique and extraordinarily valuable upon closer examination. The specific characteristics that define the 1990 Roosevelt dime worth $75 million represent what experts describe as a perfect storm of numismatic rarity, a combination of error types and quality attributes so unlikely to occur together on a single coin that the probability of its existence borders on the miraculous, and yet here it is, real and documented and worth more money than most people will ever see in their entire lifetimes. The errors on this coin begin with what specialists have classified as a transitional error, one of the rarest and most sought-after categories in all of American numismatics, suggesting that this dime was struck using die characteristics or planchet specifications that were associated with a different production year or a different phase of the minting process, creating a coin that does not quite belong to its own era, a numismatic anachronism that collectors absolutely lose their minds over when they encounter it. Layered on top of that transitional error is evidence of a dramatic die CAP error, a phenomenon that occurs when a coin sticks to the die during the striking process and then acts as a die itself for subsequent strikes, creating a coin with raised, cap-like features on one side and a distinctive brockage or incuse image on the other, a visual effect so striking and so immediately recognizable to trained eyes that it stops collectors cold the moment they see it. And then, as if those two extraordinary characteristics were not already enough to make this coin the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever to exist, there is the matter of its condition, because the finest known example of this coin has been graded at a level that represents essentially perfect preservation, a coin that somehow survived the minting process with all of its extraordinary error characteristics intact, was somehow not caught and destroyed by quality control, somehow circulated or was otherwise handled without sustaining the wear and damage that would have reduced its value, and eventually came to rest in the hands of someone who recognized what they had. The discovery story of the most celebrated example of this coin is the kind of tale that gets passed around at coin shows and collector conventions like a campfire legend, involving an ordinary person, not a professional numismatist, not a seasoned collector with decades of experience, but someone who simply happened to look more carefully than the average person, happened to notice something unusual about a dime that crossed their path, happened to have the curiosity and the presence of mind to set it aside rather than spend it, and in doing so stumbled into one of the greatest numismatic finds of the modern era. When this coin was eventually authenticated and its value established, it sent ripples through the entire collecting community, prompting thousands of people across the country to pull out their old coin jars and go through every single Roosevelt dime they owned, hoping, praying, that somewhere in their collection was another example from the same extraordinary 1990 Philadelphia production run. The auction history of this coin reads like a financial thriller, with each successive sale setting a new record, attracting new buyers, generating new headlines, and reinforcing the fundamental truth that in the world of rare coins, condition and rarity combine to create values that seem almost impossible until the moment the hammer falls and the sale price is confirmed. $75 million is a number that deserves to be contemplated in its full magnitude, because it represents not just the value of a coin but the value of knowledge, the value of attention, the value of taking a moment to look carefully at something most people dismiss without a second thought. Every single Roosevelt dime from 1990 bearing the P Mint mark is a potential candidate for closer examination, and while the vast majority of them are worth exactly 10 cents, the 1 in a billion chance that you are holding something that would make you one of the wealthiest people in any room you walk into is always there, always real, always possible. The numismatic community has not given up hope that additional examples of this coin from the same production run might still be out there, uncatalogued, unrecognized, waiting to be found by someone who watches a video like this one and decides to take a second look at their loose change. That person could be you. Right now, as you finish watching this video, There is a non-zero chance that somewhere in your home, somewhere in your family's belongings, somewhere in a collection you inherited or purchased or accumulated over years of casual saving, there is a 1990 Roosevelt dime that is not worth 10 cents but $75 million. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is whether or not you take the time to look. So go look. Check every dime. Check the dates, check the mint marks, examine the lettering under magnification, look for anything unusual, anything doubled, anything off-center, anything that does not look quite right, because the difference between 10 cents and $75 million is simply a matter of knowing what to look for and caring enough to check, and now you know, so there is no excuse not to, and if you find something extraordinary, you will know exactly where you heard about it first, right here, on Coin Hustle USA.